Oklahoma sent a message to the rest of the college football landscape yesterday. Big time win in Red River. Final score, Oklahoma 34, Texas 30. And it wasn't pretty. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't nice and polished with a bow on top of it. But even so, Oklahoma, I wholeheartedly believe, made a statement. I think Brent Venables made a statement. I think this team made a statement all across the landscape yesterday. Like I mentioned before, we're going to talk about it right now. Really quickly, though, Oklahoma fans, make sure you're dialed in right here. We talk college football and only college football every single day of the year, live 3 times a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. To make sure you're up with everything going on here, make sure you're following me on Instagram and on Twitter at JDPakel. Let's jump into this thing right now, though. We'll say it. We are first to own this miss. We picked Texas to win this football game. Because quite frankly, we did not think Oklahoma was going to be able to make good on some of the things they did from a game plan perspective, and we were off on that, 110%. I mean, the scrappy effort from this team yesterday defensively, you cannot say enough good things about. And the thing that stuck out the most to me was the brand of football it was from Oklahoma. Like what we saw yesterday from Oklahoma, I think is a lot closer to the Sooner brand of football they want to be, what they hired Brent Venables for, than what they were the last couple of years with Lincoln Riley as their head coach. And that's not to talk down on Lincoln Riley as much as I think some of the good people watching this video from Norman, Oklahoma might want to talk down on Lincoln Riley. Not a video we're going to do that. But Brent Venables yesterday, they forced 3 turnovers. They forced pressure consistently. They got home multiple times against Quinn Ewers. They had 5 sacks. The line of scrimmage from Oklahoma yesterday was what I thought going into the game going to be the advantage for Texas. It was not that. It was not. Oklahoma, they outrushed Texas 201 to 156. They were the better football team across the board yesterday was Oklahoma, and they were the scrappier football team. Like it wasn't a situation where Oklahoma went in there and they adjusted their style of play to Texas and they said, okay, well, Texas can take these things away, so we have to kind of format our game plan to fit what they're going to take away. It was like, no. We're the Sooners. This is what we do. We're imposing our style of play, our game plan on Texas. You got to deal with it. And if you're an Oklahoma Sooner fan, the amount of pride you have, not just in this team, but in this administration to bring in a guy like Brent Venables, to see the opportunity to bring in the brand of football you want your team to be, hard hat, lunch pail, blue collar, tough, gritty, all those adjectives, all those cliches you want to throw around because they're true about Oklahoma today. I think there's a tremendous amount of, yeah, that's our guy. That's our guy. That's our coach today in Norman, Oklahoma. We said it going into the game now. If Oklahoma was going to beat Texas, it would take a tremendous output from the offense, and a tremendous output from the offense would likely come in the form of Jeff Lebby calling a game. And I tell you what, man, he did exactly that. They kept Texas off balance what felt like all day long. Again, was it perfect? No. But even so, to score 34 points and to match the firepower of Texas, cannot say enough good things about Jeff Lebby and the way that he called this game. They put pressure on the perimeter consistently. That was one of the things that I loved that they did. They had motions going all over the formation. They're throwing the ball in the perimeter. They're getting the quick game going. This offense is very rhythmic, and they did a great job getting Dillon Gabriel in a rhythm early, whether it was with his legs, whether it was with the RPO game. Like they found a way to make sure he was comfortable and to make sure that the catalyst of their offense was in position to be successful. Dillon Gabriel, program guy through and through, program guy of the week for us here on this show at least. 23 of 38, 285, a touchdown. Oh, by the way, also over 100 yards rushing. Big run came there at the end of the game, which allowed him to go over that 100-yard mark. But I think the way that they were able to, again, keep that Texas defense off balance and keep the flow of their defense going all over the field, like that wasn't a subpar Texas defense. That wasn't like a Texas defense that you look at and say, oh, yeah, well, it was Texas after all. That defensive line for Texas, to be able to run for over 200 yards against Tavondre Sweat and company, that's saying something. That's something that's going to travel. That's something that I think that if you're Oklahoma, you can point back to and say, okay, this is our identity, and this is exactly who we want to be going forward, and this is the physical edge that we bring to the table game in and game out, that everyone else on Oklahoma's schedule now has to account for and say, this is what they're bringing to the table running the football. Can you match that? If you can't, going to be a long day at the office for you. Now, here was the thing that I thought was potentially the most telling from this football game. just from a gameplay standpoint, the implications obviously stretch farther, and we'll talk about them here in a second. Oklahoma gets the football, down 3, a little over a minute left. And this was a situation where exactly what you are as a football team is going to come out. Like in that situation, there's live bullets. It's a Red River rivalry. It is an enormous spot. Everybody in the country is watching this game, or trying to at least, with all the satellite nonsense going on. In that spot, you can't fake what you are. And what I saw this Oklahoma team be was confident, was aggressive. They were sure of themselves. And Dillon Gabriel, I thought, embodied that to a T. Like he steps out there and he did exactly that. He was stepping into his throws. There was no aiming the football. There was no hoping he was going to hit his guy that he was open. Like he was stepping in with confidence. He was stepping in with authority. He was throwing the ball in tight windows. He's throwing the ball to the wide side of the field. He's stepping up in the pocket. He's keeping eyes downfield. He's making plays. Like everything about that drive for Oklahoma, I think, was just a statement of how far they've come since Brent Venables has gotten there as their head coach. And again, you can't fake that in that spot. You can't fake your confidence or your identity. You can't fake anything when it's a minute left to go in your biggest game of your regular season at that point in time. Now, again, going back to what we said at the top of this video, there was a very clear message sent to the entirety of the college football world with Oklahoma knocking off Texas in the fashion they did. And I think for Oklahoma, we said it over the entirety of this week. Like if they were to win this football game, the feeling would be that's why we hired Brent Venables. Lincoln Riley scored a lot of points. That's fine. He wants to go to Hollywood. We understand that. But this is why we brought in a guy like Brent Venables to bring this brand of football back to Norman, Oklahoma, where we play physical up front. It's not going to be pretty. The football's an imperfect game. Embrace it. And they did that yesterday. And it wasn't a subpar Texas team they beat either. I'll say that again. A Texas team that went into Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama, and I think put a lot of things on tape for the rest of the college football world in their own right. We'll talk about Texas in another video. The win yesterday for Brent Venables and for Oklahoma just legitimizes everything that they are, that they have been, and I think that they will be. Like everything Brent Venables did behind closed doors last season, and they went 6-7, and there was a lot of jokes about them being 6-7 and all the jokes about Brent Venables not being able to be a head coach and all the question marks. Like everything he did behind closed doors when all that external noise was going on last year, when they lost this game 49-0 last year, okay, this is what it was for. This was the build-up to that. All they did through the portal, this was the build-up to that. It legitimizes Oklahoma now, I think, in the present sense, in terms of what they can accomplish. Everything you want to talk about today as an Oklahoma Sooner fan is on the table. College football playoff, I don't see why not. Big 12 title, I don't see why not. Everything that you have on the table to talk about now is fair game. And then going forward, now remember, Oklahoma leaving for the SEC next year. And I don't want to get too ahead of our skis because that's down the road. We still have a phenomenal college football season to play out the rest of this year, obviously. But even so, man, I think you got to feel a little bit more confident about where you stand in that transition. Because before it was all this talk around, well, Texas beat Bama and Texas is going to do this. And I think Texas still probably should feel good about where they're at as well. But for Oklahoma now, you got to feel a little bit like, hey, don't forget about us. Hey, that brand of football we played yesterday, that tough brand of football on the line of scrimmage we played yesterday, don't forget about us. That's going to travel to the SEC as well. So I want to make sure we say this before we get out of here. I don't think this is the last time we see this game. I think based on what we saw yesterday, both these teams are the best in the conference. We already knew they were the best rosters in the conference, but from what we saw in that game yesterday, I hope and I pray we see this game again in Jerry World because I think it's the two best teams, and I think it's the game that we deserve as the college football public. But regardless, Oklahoma making a statement, sending a message, however you want to put it, Oklahoma, put it out there for the entirety of the college football world to see that they are for real. Brent Venables is for real. This team is for real. And this brand that they're playing now in Norman, I think is right in line with what that school wants and what that school is going to be going forward. Make sure you're subscribed here. College football, only college football. Again, follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at JDPakel. Hey, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.